Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Bishop Bryan Ouellette for our new edition of Vestiges of Christianity on this January 30th, 2017. Today we are going to continue, to a certain extent, the subject from last week. Not so much about the Women's March as about abortion. But we shouldn't get too angry about it, because the church does have ways of helping people who have fallen into the realm of the darkness of abortion. And today we want to talk about how the church heals those who have resorted to abortion, either out of ignorance or simply out of sin. Deacon Thomas Moreland will be joining us for this edition. Stay tuned. It's going to be a good show. Welcome back, everyone. This is, once again, Bishop Bryan Ouellette coming to you live from the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. And, there's a lot that we could discuss about the topic of abortion. There's a lot that need not be said. It's a difficult topic on the basis of whether one deals with it legally, morally, ethically, or even on a personal socio-economic basis. It's not a cut and dry issue. And that's what makes it so challenging. So today we're going to break it down, and then we're going to talk about how the church heals it, both from the larger canonical Roman Catholic system that everybody is familiar with, or should be at least, and everyone should know that the Roman Catholic Church is perhaps the greatest institutional defender of the pro-life movement. And then we're going to talk about, perhaps even in more detail, how the Holy Nicholean Catholic Church deals with it, which is somewhat different. Our canons allow us a little bit more flexibility and freedom, and I want to talk about how we deal with it, which I think is actually a little bit more enlightened than the larger canonical Roman Catholic system. And we'll get into that in just a moment here. And we'll be right back after a word from On Air Radio Network.
Hey folks, this is Joe Roos. Did you know that you can help support the On Air Radio Network each time you make a purchase on Amazon.com? Just click the Amazon banner ad on our website, onairradionetwork.com, and the On Air Radio Network will receive a percentage of the price of your purchase. It doesn't cost you a thing, and it won't affect your...
I think there's always a problem with this file for some reason. I do apologize. We're going to go ahead and try to do that again. My deepest apologies for whatever reason.
Shopping. Thanks for your support.
Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. We're still trying to work out the challenges of this switchboard, and they, for some reason, there's always something that's not going right with that particular file. I wasn't even able to play it last week, so I didn't even try, but this week it played. I hope you heard it, but I guess you'll tell me if you did or not. Anyway, we are on the On Air Radio Network. and so we are very grateful to them for airing this show on, I believe, Sundays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. Check on their website, onairradionetwork.com, to see the schedule. And now, without any further delay, let's go ahead and bring Deacon Thomas Moreland on to help us discuss this difficult topic. How are you doing today, Deacon?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me again.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, and I really do appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the show and give us your insight and, give an opportunity for the audience to hear somebody else other than me speaking all the time. I think it makes for a more interesting show that way. But, we talked last week about Women's March and what it really meant. And, let's make let's not make any pretense about it. They can claim women's rights all they want. They can claim it's about equal opportunity. They can claim it's about human rights. And what it breaks down to is just really the willingness to engage in murder and wanting to normalize this, in a sense, so that it never... Well, let me put it this way. It wants to retain the right for legal killing. We can't really call it murder because it's not a legal murder. It isn't, unfortunately. That's what pro-life is trying to do with their march. Even though I'm not for marches and I'm really not for activism, I think there's more intelligent ways to change policy and to educate the public on various issues. I just think activism leads to all sorts of emotional extremism that really doesn't get anything done except at making everybody angry. So I'm not for either of the marches. I want to make that clear. But I will say this: pro-life is trying to get the world to understand that what is happening in an abortion is akin to murder, and it should be considered murder, even though the country does not classify it as murder at the present time, which is why it's legal, and it's even further a complete monstrosity of an issue when you consider that it is considered a woman's rights issue or a woman's reproductive health issue, which I think is even worse, because it's being used as a form of birth control. We've established that. You established that last week with the statistics that you gave us from Florida, which is a good sample population. Florida's a pretty large state. It's a pretty balanced state of both liberal and conservative-minded people. It has a pretty good balance of Republicans and Democrats, so it's a good one to look at. And there you go. We saw very clearly in the statistics that abortion amounts to basically birth control. It's very rarely ever used for any of the other issues that may have a little bit of ethical credibility, if not, any moral credibility. But I want to bring something up that I didn't have time to last week, and then we're going to get into how the church deals with these issues. And one of the things I hear a lot, Deacon, is you hear the movement, Women's March and everything, talking about, or even feminists in general. And I want to make it very clear before I get started, I am not against women's rights. I am very much for equal opportunity. I am very much for equality amongst all races, amongst all ethnicities, all genders, absolutely. Or I guess I have to say sexes now, right? Because gender is now something different than sex, apparently. But outside of that, I'm for equality. What I am not for is reverse discrimination. What I am not for is saying that it's okay to oppress a majority population because they are the majority. And unfortunately, that's what I'm starting to see now with feminism. And I don't care if it's the radical kind or if it's the more moderate kind. It is present within the system itself. So I don't have much respect for feminism, not because I don't have respect for women, but because I don't need feminism to respect women. And that's the difference. I don't need some movement to tell me that women should be respected. I already know that they deserve respect out of virtue of their humanity. But one of the key issues that feminists have made central to their platform is women's reproductive health. And they consider abortion to be part of this. And so they think that their right to an abortion is a matter of their right to health care. And so I want to kind of dispel the myths behind that. Because a lot of people are saying that it's her body. She gets to choose what happens with her body. And if she doesn't want a fetus growing within it, then she has the right to say no to that, because that fetus at that point is a parasite. It's living off of her. And if she chooses not to have that happen, then she has a right to say no to it. That's the argument. That's the platform. That's very much closely related to the mass of cells argument. Oh, it's just a mass of cells, so it's not important. Now remember, last week we talked about how it's not about whether or not the fetus, the zygote, the embryo, whatever you have is life. We already know these are living cells. We already know that they form the basic definition of an organism, which is alive. But it's whether or not it's important life. And as far as I'm concerned, biology is not equipped to answer that question. It cannot answer that question. Politics is not equipped to answer that question. Sociology is not equipped to answer that question. Psychology is not equipped to answer that question. Only philosophy. Whether or not a particular life is important can only be answered by philosophy. Because it's a moral judgment. How do you decide which life is more important? How do you decide? We can say that social mores kind of give us a basic understanding. What the majority agree to is what we decide is. But I'm not so sure we can start doing that when we're talking about human DNA, which, as we established last week, is what makes up a human zygote, embryo, or fetus. So let's talk about the woman's right for a minute. Her right to her body and to say what goes on in her body. Let's talk about that. Because there's something very interesting that I didn't have a chance to get into last week because we ran out of time. And this will be a good segue into what we're talking about today as far as how do we rectify it. Because you need to know the answer to what I'm about to say before you even know why the church has to be a part of the reconciliation process for those that have engaged in this act. And that is, if we are to take what feminists say for face value and agree with it and say, you know what, they have a point. It is a woman's health issue. It is about reproductive health. It is their right. It's her body. She decides. It's choice. Thus the name of the pro-choice movement. Okay. Then guess what? Explain to me this. Women's bodies, the female biology, as it is constructed by whichever you decide, whether it be the creation of God, for those of you who understand the value of religion, or whether you see it as just a biological anomaly that somehow we spawned into existence over millions of years of the evolution of life, which I don't reject. I just think there's just a basic design behind it, but that's for another discussion. I find it interesting that built into the design of the female anatomy is the ability to miscarriage. In fact, more than 50% of zygotes miscarry automatically, naturally. As soon as the body senses that something's going wrong with that pregnancy, and a lot goes wrong with pregnancy, let me tell you, the body purges it. Involuntarily. There's no choice involved. The woman doesn't have to say anything. She doesn't have to use her brain to tell her body to do this. It simply does it automatically to protect her her body's protecting itself. And so it will automatically purge through the process of miscarriage a pregnancy that is not viable. And that's automatic. That's natural. That was built into the design. So for those of you who believe God created us, God created that process. But isn't it interesting that even though the human body knows how to do this, it didn't give that power to the mind of the woman? She cannot override the involuntary process and say, you know what? I want to keep this child even though it's not viable, and vice versa. She can't say to her through her mind, telling her body that a viable pregnancy, I don't want it. Go ahead and purge it. We have built within us, by the power of God, a natural abortion system that we call miscarriage. And yet, the design of the human body did not give women that right. It's an old thing that I've been saying for many, many years, that if you're ever in moral doubt, if there's ever a question as to what God's will is, look to his creation. These facts are indisputable. I mean, breathing is necessary, and for all of us, breathing is involuntary. I mean, you don't have to think about breathing. Your body just does it. But you also have the power to stop breathing temporarily. And then if you hold your breath for too long, your body will force you to take a breath. You can't typically hold your breath to the point of hypoxia. Eventually, under normal circumstances, an average person will start to breathe automatically. But we can control our breath to a certain extent. We can hold it. We can stop it. So why can't a woman stop her pregnancy when she doesn't want it? Could it be that nature does not want her to have that power? I think so. So it doesn't matter if you believe in God or not. It's built right into the design of the system itself. And all the millions of years of evolution, nature never gave females the ability to abort their own children naturally. And it has the natural process already in there. They could do it painlessly, for the most part, and safely. They wouldn't need any invasive procedure. They wouldn't need to go to a doctor. They could just simply say, as easy as it is to stop breathing, to say to the pregnancy, I am aborting this pregnancy. And the body does that all the time. In fact, most people who have tried to get pregnant, I guarantee you, most people who have tried to get pregnant have probably had a miscarriage and didn't even know it. Because you don't really notice it on a zygote. It's only when you get into a certain stage of the pregnancy where it becomes more of an issue, and can be sometimes dangerous, but usually not. So I just wanted to throw that out there, a little bit of science to get you thinking. And then let's jump into how the church sees it. But Thomas, I don't want to deprive you of an opportunity to comment on that before we get into the actual topic today. So do you have any thoughts?
Just a real quick thought. Even if say you're an atheist and you remove God from the equation when it comes to the humanity and breeding, there really is only one purpose for all life, and that's the continuation of it. It's the procreation of the species. There's only one purpose. Nature doesn't have this issue with women's rights. It's irrelevant to nature. It's irrelevant to biology. And it may seem like women and even men in that context are only for one purpose, and that's procreation of species. It may feel like it takes away from the bigger purpose that people feel they have. But really, if you think about it, I mean, we're made for one thing, and it's the continuation of the species. And when one goes against that, even out within the context of just general biology, you're really hurting our purpose. God removed. Say one's a diehard atheist. You're going against the general purpose of what we're built for. We're not built for these other purposes that we would like to give ourselves. We're built to continue. We're built to continue. Every species, from the cell to the to us, the pinnacle of evolution. We're made to procreate. We're made to breed. We're made to continue. Without that going on or interrupting the process, it only leads to trouble.
Well, it's said in the Bible, not to get too biblical, but I mean, this show is essentially for high-level Christian thinkers, so I think it's okay to mention. But, the Bible does say, God is not the author of confusion. It also calls Satan the father of lies. And I really think it's interesting that when you look at this liberal progressive extremism that is running rampant right now, particularly manifested in the current form of the Women's March, I find it interesting that all the things that they are fighting for are bastardizations of nature.
That's true.
That's true. And I mean, and I hate to say that. I hate to say that because I know it makes me sound like I'm just this typical patriarchal, Christian who the Bible, whatever the Bible says is what goes, and I don't want to present that type of opinion of myself. I actually am a great deal more innovative than that, and I have more of a mind of my own than that. But the reason I mention it is that there are deep violations of nature contained within the Women's March movement. It's a complete redefinition of the structure of the female system by making them men-like. Feminism is not about affirming femininity. It's not about raising them up to higher standards of respect. It's about saying men have respect, so we want to be like men. And so it's, if you look at it, it's just an imitation of that process that is unique and natural to men, but not the normal course of action for women, which I see as a distortion of the clarity of truth, which would fall into the realm of the satanic. Same with gender dysmorphia. It's a disease. It's not a right. It's a disease. So how far do we go? Do we go to the point of saying that pedophiles didn't choose to be pedophiles? That, this is their sexuality. That's just the way it is. So let them be. No one would argue that, left or right. I don't care what side of the spectrum. There's very few people, except for these really radical few, that would go for that. It's one thing that both left and right can mostly agree on. But yet, it's their sexuality. It's not their fault. They were born that way. In fact, if you talk to most pedophiles, and I used to work with them in a clinical setting, so I can tell you from firsthand experience, they all told me the same thing. They have felt like that from birth. They can't ever remember not being sexually attracted to children. Well, obviously, they started that in their own age, But as they got older, the proclivity to be interested in children didn't go away like it does for ordinary people, where they start to basically maintain a sexual interest in people their own age, or at least within their general age. But yet, that's kind of what we're saying here with this kind of thing of gender dysmorphia, and what the DSM-3, prior to the recent modifications, felt about even homosexuality, that it was a paraphilia. But I don't want to go too far into that, but I think it's interesting, and I just wanted to note that everything that the Women's March stands for seems to be a corruption of the Christian message. So anybody who tells me, oh, there's no war on Christianity, you're full of crap. There's a war on Christianity. Open your eyes and read between the lines of what's being spewed out there. Okay? It has nothing to do with women's rights. It has everything to do with reverse discrimination and reverse oppression. It really does. But how do we fix it? How do we fix the problem of abortion? Well, the Roman Catholic Church is pretty strict. Their pro-life position is a very strong one. And the Roman Catholic Church really doesn't have a whole great deal of tolerance for it. And rightfully so. I actually agree with that. Where we part ways, though, between the Roman Catholic tradition and the Nicholean Catholic tradition, is on how to fix it. Well, in the Roman Catholic Church, anyone who participates in an abortion, by having an abortion, financing abortion, driving the person to the abortion clinic, running an abortion clinic, supporting an abortion, even on philosophical grounds, being the doctor who performs it, anybody who is involved in a successful abortion is automatically excommunicated. They don't even need to receive papers from Rome. It is automatic excommunication. Complete deprivation from the sacraments of the church. And the only way to reconcile is to go to, well, it used to be you had to go to your bishop. You had to make an appointment with your bishop and receive you would have to receive a confession directly, the sacrament of reconciliation, directly from him. And then you would have to, as I understand it, you would have to be so repentant that the bishop would acknowledge this, and then he would release you from your excommunication. Now, the Pope, the recent popes have sort of softened that rule, and now all priests are now, Thomas, you would probably have more information on this than I do because you follow the particularities of the Roman Catholic Church a lot more closely than I do. I'm not as, it doesn't affect me, so I don't really spend much time on every little tiny thing that they do, but I know that it's of great interest to you, just from an academic standpoint and just kind of following what the Church of Rome is doing, so I kind of rely on you for a lot of this. But from what I understand, the Roman Catholic Church now has made it possible for all priests to be able to dispense people from excommunication as the result of abortion. Is that your understanding as well?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's up to the bishop to give his priest the ability to do that, which I think, at least in America, almost all of them have done that.
Yes, I think you're right. So that makes sense, and I think, and so basically today, if you were to have an abortion, you would still be excommunicated as a Roman Catholic, but you could be able to, if you were repentant for it. I mean, it wouldn't be it's not like you can go and have an abortion and then the next day go to the priest and get dispensed. It's not going to work like that. They're going to want to still to see that there is actual an interest, a desire to be reconciled to the church for the great crime that you committed against God. I mean, this is one of the gravest sins that man can do, or I should say woman can do. And so it isn't to be taken lightly. It isn't like, oh, I lied to my, mother because, I didn't want her to know that I stole something from. It's not like that, where you can go and, get reconciled to God through the sacrament of reconciliation. No, you have to be truly repentant, otherwise it does not apply. And even if you were to receive the sacrament of reconciliation and receive absolution from the priest, if you are not truly repentant, that absolution does not stick. In order for the sacrament of reconciliation to work. It requires the absolution of the priest and the genuine repentance of the sinner. Without those two working together, there is no reconciliation. There is no forgiveness. So you have to be truly sorry, not just say you're sorry. You have to be truly repentant for what you've done and want to make right yourself with God. That's the Roman Catholic way. And we mostly agree with that. But Nicholean Catholics, I want to say in our tradition, we have a little bit more of an enlightened view. And so we fully agree that abortion is a grave mortal sin. No question about that. And we don't take it any less serious than the Roman Catholic Church does. But I don't feel excommunication is the proper way to handle this atrocity. To deprive a woman of the sacraments of the church when she needs them most is in itself a type of atrocity. And so I understand the nature of excommunication, which is to try to get the person thinking so that they can feel that deprivation of the sacraments, they can feel that lack of support from the church, and want to be motivated back into understanding what they've done so that they will be sorry and do what's necessary to come back into the good graces of the church. But guess what? It doesn't work like that anymore. People don't feel that way anymore. They don't think that way anymore. Today, if the church says something like that, you know what women do? Screw the church. The hell with all of you. We don't need you. Down with the patriarchy. You're not women. These rules are being made by men. And that's the message that excommunication gives to these individuals. That's the reality of it. So our position, what the Holy Nicholean Catholic Church does, is yes, absolutely, confession is mandatory. The sacrament of reconciliation is mandatory. But we're not going to excommunicate women who have had abortions. In fact, I wouldn't even deprive a woman who has had an abortion of the sacrament of the Eucharist. Because there is great grace and healing power in that sacrament, and there is no defilement that we can take upon ourselves that can separate us from the love of Christ. Not one thing. We can't defile Christ by taking him into us when we are in deep, grave sin. But some of his holiness and grace might rub off on us and change our hearts. And so that's how the Nicholean Church handles it. So I always encourage any of you out there who are in close proximity to me here in Atlanta, Georgia, who have had an abortion and really are really sorry for what you have done, and really want to make yourself right with God again, make an appointment to come and see me, and we'll fix that. Thomas, what are your thoughts on all this?
I do believe we go about it the right way. It's a more open door policy, but the key is being contrite. The key is the receive that grace, receive that forgiveness. You really have to be sorry for this most horrible sin. But it doesn't mean that the doors close forever. It doesn't mean that the doors. The love of Christ is always going to be there for the greatest of all sinners. He is going to be there, And I would suggest, don't come. Well, come, but come with a contrite heart. Feel the mistake that you made. Understand what it was and what happened, and that can be a turning point in your life. It can be a new beginning for you. Everybody's got a bad past. Everybody's got something bad in their past, but it doesn't mean that that's the end of it for everybody. And we do have the ability to offer what the Roman Catholic Church has. If you're a Roman Catholic and you're having problems, whatever it may be with the church, we can help you out with that, and just come with a contrite heart. That's the key in my eyes.
Yeah, because it really comes back to the whole thing of open and closed communion, really, and how excommunication closes one off to all of the sacraments of the Church, which seems kind of counterproductive when you consider that. When are people going to need the grace of Christ more? When they are in a state of grace already through virtue of personal holiness? Or when they have committed great sin and have defiled themselves, and there is no defilement greater than abortion. Really, there's only a few that you could. Abortion is a twofold defilement because, you're not only violating a person through murder, which is, obviously a mortal sin, or unlawful, immoral killing. Okay, but you're also doing this to a child. You're not even depriving somebody who. It's bad enough to deprive an adult of their life, but at least they've had a chance to live some. You're depriving someone of life before they've even had a chance. It's a twofold defilement. In my mind, it's the worst thing that we can do. It's a type of violence against a child that is no different, I think, than rape. It's as bad as raping a child. It's just a different type of rape. Instead of being sexual, it's a spiritual rape. You're depriving that child of a chance to live, which is their God-given right. God put that child inside that woman's body. Nobody else. And you don't have a right to deprive God of the privilege that is His alone. But we can help. And that needs to be understood. That what I find in the Roman Catholic system is it's not approachable. There's no incentive for women to reconcile themselves to God when it works like that. So we don't automatically excommunicate you. You won't be excommunicated from us by virtue of having an abortion. But you will be expected to find that reconciliation, which does require genuine contrition and repentance. And we can help you with that through pastoral counseling. Our church offers some very important services that are completely open to you. They're free. Most of them are free. Pastoral counseling, we do have an hourly donation, a suggested donation for that, just because the church doesn't make money. It doesn't have any other source of income. It doesn't have a congregation that supports it on a regular basis. So we, certain things that require a great deal of time commitment do require some donation. So we do ask for a donation for pastoral counseling. But we can work a sliding scale if you can't afford that. I have even been known to see people in pastoral counseling for free if they are in serious need and and in serious financial crisis. So there's never an excuse to not come and receive that reconciliation from God. It's so important. And I can't stress that enough. The sacraments are the only way to heal you. And I could never deprive anyone of those sacraments that are so powerful to effectuate the grace of salvation in a way that is tangible and formidable against the forces of darkness. And I can tell you right now, every abortion has at its core the heart of Satan. It really does. Satan is central to it because he hates God's creation and anything he can do to promote the destruction of it, even in the smallest of forms, a zygote, embryo, whatever, he'll do. And now he's making it normalized. It's okay. It's woman's health. It's a woman's right. Promoting modern sensibilities. He's so cunning. And so many of you are completely blind to that. What do you think about that, Thomas, in the lab? We got about a minute left here. What are your thoughts?
I would like to add real quick, we're talking about the aftermath of abortion, and we can help with that. But if you are pregnant and thinking about having an abortion, please contact us also. We can set you up with resources that can help you out with, keeping the child. Bryan's in Atlanta. Contact me here, and if you're in the Lawton, Oklahoma area, I'd be more than happy to help you out and point you in directions where we can help you out with that issue, so we can prevent this from even becoming an issue.
That's an excellent point, and I'm glad you made it. Anyone who needs help with this, whether you are thinking about an abortion, whether you're just not sure about the issue, whether you've had one and don't know what to do as far as getting reconciled to God, feel free to call us at 207-370-9077. That's 207-370-9077. That is the church's main line. It sometimes can take us a few days to get back in touch with you because our resources are limited, and we're very busy. In fact, we have cases booked all the way through May now. We're actually into June, but I can sometimes make appointments to see you after Mass. We can have reconciliation after Mass, and we have at least 1 or 2 Masses a week. So there's definitely opportunity for you to come. So that's 207-370-9077. Give us a call if you need help, and if you are in Atlanta, you will be, contacted by somebody on my ministerial staff here. And if you are in the Lawton, Oklahoma area, you can definitely go and meet up with Deacon Thomas Moreland. Just call that number either way, and we will connect you to whichever person can be of the closest assistance to you. Unfortunately, those are the only active areas at the present time. But even if you are out of our jurisdiction, maybe we can help to connect you to somebody within the order that the church is affiliated with. That's the Order of Exorcists. A lot of our ministers do more than just simply exorcisms. They do work regular Christian ministries as well. So, Deacon Thomas Moreland, thank you so much for your input and your being here with us today. I want to thank all of our audience members. Please continue to get the word out about vestiges of Christianity, and we will see you next week, probably on Monday again. I think that's going to be the new day for the show. Schedule's changed a little bit, but I will have a new topic for you next week. Not sure what it is. Thomas and I will talk about it, and thank you all. If you can donate to us or On Air Radio Network, please do so. You can go to esotericcatholic.org and click on the donation button. You can also find us on Facebook. There's a donation button there as well. We need your support in order to continue to do this ministry, a ministry that is vitally important to so many people. Once again, for Deacon Thomas Moreland, Vestiges of Christianity, and myself, Bishop Bryan Ouellette, thank you and good day.